Gracious God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable now in your sight, for you are our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I love the story of Zacchaeus because it takes me back to my childhood. One of the first songs I remember learning in Sunday school was Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. He climbed up in the sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. You remember that? Some of you do. That's right. And there's Zacchaeus calling right now. And I think I liked the story about Zacchaeus, and I think most children like the story about Zacchaeus because it says he was a wee little man, and as children we like to think of somebody else who was small, who Jesus took time to stop and talk to. And another favorite element of mine for the story is that he was up in a tree. And as a kid I used to love to climb trees. I'd climb up as high as I could and swing on the top back and forth and be out in the breeze. I love to climb trees. So here's two elements of the story already that sound familiar and make us feel good. But the actual context of the story is far from a real feel-good situation. Jesus had gone to Jericho, which is an oasis town. It's out in the desert. You walk through dry, sandy, rocky land, and all of a sudden you see greenery and palm trees growing. It's where some water has sprung up in the desert. We think Jericho may be one of the oldest cities on earth. They have done archaeology digging down to before the Bronze Age. People were living there. So Jesus has gone to Jericho, and a crowd has gathered around him. This is later in his ministry. This is 19th chapter of the book of Luke, so people know who he is. And this character named Zacchaeus lives in Jericho. There he is again. Zacchaeus is a crook. He's not only a crook, he's in league with the Romans. He is the chief tax collector. He is everybody's enemy. The way that taxes were collected in those days by the Romans is that they sent out soldiers and thugs to your home and took what they considered to be taxable. If you had just brought the grain in, they would take a percentage of your grain. If you didn't have grain, they would take something out of your house that was valuable. Once a year, somebody was going to come and rob you of something that you had for taxes for Caesar. So Zacchaeus was the head thief in the area, and he had become greatly rich. The way that you made money as a tax collector is after all these goods were brought in, you kept a portion of it, and the rest of it you shipped on to Rome. Rome was happy for the tax collectors to do that because the more you stole from the people, the more Rome would get. Everybody hated Zacchaeus. He heard that Jesus was coming to town. He was a short fella. He was vertically challenged, as we would say today. And he wanted to see Jesus, so he ran ahead and he crawled up into a tree. And as Jesus comes by, he stops. The crowd around him stops. He looks up into the tree and says, "Zacchaeus, get down from there." Calls him by name. He knew who he was. Zacchaeus comes down, and much to everyone's surprise, he says, "I'm going to your house today. I'm going to have lunch with you." That was paying someone an honor. I'm honoring you with my presence. Well, immediately the crowd begins to murmur, as crowds sometimes do. What does this guy think he's doing? Doesn't he know who this guy is? Doesn't he know how terrible he is? He's the king of thieves. He's in league with the Romans. That's just like that, Jesus. Well, he's been known to eat with tax collectors, prostitutes, thieves, Samaritans. He just hangs out with the wrong people. He's a boundary breaker. Zacchaeus comes down, and in front of the crowd, he is so moved by this young rabbi who, in front of everybody, has said, I honor you, I'm coming to your house today. He says, I'm going to make restitution for everything that I've stolen. First of all, I'm going to give away everything, half of everything I have to the poor. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? And he says, anybody I've cheated, and that's everybody, because he's a cheat, I'll pay back fourfold, 4 times. He was serious about leading a new life. Everything for Zacchaeus had been changed. Jesus, wherever he went, was always looking for those who were seeking. He knew that Zacchaeus was seeking some answers in his life. You don't climb a tree in the middle of a crowd unless you're looking for something. When Sue and I went to Rio for Carnival back in 2000, we were in a big parade marching down the street, and everybody was beating drums and everything else, and there were people up in the trees watching us go by. You don't climb a tree to see something unless you're interested in it. Jesus knew Zacchaeus was seeking something. He was sensitive to this man, even though his status was terrible. And that's our first great word for today. All that is required of us is to witness to those who are seeking. Let me repeat that. All that is required of us is to witness to those who are seeking. We don't have to go after the unbeliever. We don't have to go after the atheist. We don't have to go after someone who believes in another God or another religion. All God is calling us to do is simply witness to those who are seeking. And if we will do that, God will bring the harvest. Well, who are the seekers of today? Who are those who are seeking spiritual truth? Well, certainly one group is young people, teenagers and those in college. We thank every one of them for being here, who are here. We have a big youth group in our church. We're trying to form those young people. They're asking deep questions. What should I do with my life? Where am I going? Who should be my friends? How should I act? They're asking deep questions. And our job is to simply witness to them. And when a witness is just simply speaking what God has done in your life. Well, here's what God did for me when I was really confused. Here's how God worked with me, because I went through that period of acting out. Here's what God has done for me, because I've had difficulties in my life. We witness to those who are seeking. We saw the children this morning. We witness to them and to their parents who are seeking. They're seeking, how can I be a mom and a dad and a worker and a parent? All the different pressures of my life constantly hemming in on me. Those of you that are in the military, some will deploy, some will stay here. Our job is to witness to you. We will love you and we will take care of you. We will shelter you in our arms. Come and be with us. We love you.